Good morning, year one, and welcome to Day 3's poetry. Today, you're going to be getting ready to write a poem of your own. So, we're going to be looking at all the features that make a poem, and then the robots have a challenge for you to complete. Okay, but before we start, we're going to be having a look at another piece of punctuation. So get your whiteboards and whiteboard pens ready, and as soon as you're ready, start the video again. Welcome back, year one, and today we're having a look at exclamation marks. Now, I know you did some work on these with Mrs. Cartoon, but the robots just want to check what you can remember. So tell your grown-up what an exclamation mark is and let them, and if possible, draw one on a whiteboard and say, maybe if you're really, really ambitious, you could write a sentence using one. So grown-ups, pause the video until you're ready to go on. Okay, so this is an exclamation mark. Give him a wave. He's looking very pleased with himself. So, how do we use exclamation marks? Well, you can use them in a few ways. You can use it to show surprise, to add emphasis, so that's when you're making a point, to show strength, when you're showing how mighty you are, or to show shouting, which is probably how it's used most of the time. Okay, so here we go. Let's have a look. So there's two different ways you can use exclamation marks. First one is in a sentence. An exclamation sentence is used when someone's surprised. It always starts with a how or what, and it converts a verb, a doing or feeling word, and a noun. Can you remember what a noun is? That's right, year one. It's an object like our robot pals here, the robot dog and the robot. Okay, so they've got some examples. So, what a great footballer you are. How kind you are. Brilliant. Okay, so now we're moving on. So you can have explanations that aren't sentences. These still start with how or what, but have no verb. So, what fun. How lovely. But what about other ways of using an exclamation mark? Well, you can use it for a command. Go away. Eat your tea. Be quiet. Come here. And sit down. All of those are orders. You can imagine the dog or the robot saying it to each other. I wonder what they're having for tea. And it makes it sound like someone is shouting. You can use it for surprise or excitement. Now, to be honest, year one, a lot of the time you use it this way. Wow! And that's something I use a lot when I see your amazing work. I love it! Summer holidays! Brilliant! Oops! I wonder what the robot dog's done that he needs to say oops. So, I want you to have a chat with your mums and dads and decide what is different about the way that the sentences are, with or without an exclamation mark. Grown-ups, if you can read them, I'll just give you an example of the first one and try to really emphasize the exclamation mark. So, I love your hair. I love your hair? Have a think about the difference there. So have a chat, pause the video now and decide what the difference is. Wow, some really good explanations there, but basically it brings a sentence alive. So when you're doing reading at home, have a look where there's an exclamation mark, look ahead and try to read with more expression in your voice. And now here's today's challenge. An exclamation mark can be used as an explanation phrase which starts how or what. Can be used in an explanation sentence, starts with how and what and contains a verb and a noun, or it can be used in other ways to show surprise, emphasis, strength, or shouting. The robot challenge is write sentences of your own using an exclamation mark. So pause the video and show your parents your amazing sentences once you've done them. Wow, those were some amazing sentences. Great use of exclamation marks. And now we're going to move on and have a look at what the task is today. So the robot is going to issue a challenge to start off with. Then we're going to have a look at remembering what the different features are he's talking about. And then we're going to put you back on the challenge and you can start doing the work. Okay, so what the robot wants you to do today is write a list of rhyming pairs of words in the poems. Think about what words you want to repeat. Think about whether you want your poems to have stanzas, which is verses or not, and draw a picture to show what's happening in your poem with all the rhyming words you're going to use. If you're going to use stanzas or verses, you may want to do a picture for each one of those. Okay, so let's have a quick recap on the different features of poems. So in our first poem, I'm a Little Robot, we're going to have a look at rhyming words and patterns. So, I'm a little robot, I feel great. When I touch my leg, I walk real straight. When I touch my shoulder, I spin around. And when I touch my nose, I sit on the ground. So, if you want to pause the video and just write down the rhyming pairs, the pairs of words that rhyme together, that would be brilliant. And when you start it again, I'm going to highlight and show you what I mean by rhyming pairs. Okay? Welcome back, year one. So, the rhyming words are, I'm a little robot, I feel great. When I touch my leg, I walk real straight. When I touch my shoulder, I spin around. And when I touch my nose, I sit on the ground. So, when I'm in rhyming pairs, what you probably need to be writing is the two words together. So, great. And you can put a slash or you can write underneath. So, you can do it like that. That's a pair. Or you could simply write them one under another. Around, ground. So those are rhyming words in this poem. But feel free to search the other two poems by rewinding the video. So the next thing we're looking at is repeated words and sounds. So, my robot must rate as my favourite toy, a wonderful whirring mechanical joy. My robot can talk, but he'd much rather sing, or go to the park and play on the swings. My robot is silver and very astute. For instance, this week he was learning the flute. My robot's adept at a number of tests, like doing my homework or folding my vests. My robot tells jokes that tickle your sides, or spin a good story, and much more besides. And with a small spanner, I always keep handy. I unbolt his head to store all my candy. So, have a go at looking for repeated words and repeated sounds. And remember, repeated sounds are words that start with the same sound. Okay, pause the video, grown-ups, and when you're ready, start again. Right, so let's see what you've got. I'm going to do the repeated words first. So, my robot must rate as my favourite toy. You could argue my is repeated as well. A wonderful whirring mechanical joy. My robot can talk, but he'd much rather sing or go to the park and play on the swings. My robot is silver and very astute. For instance, this week he was learning the flute. My robot's adept at a number of tests, like doing my homework or folding my vests. My robot tells jokes that will tickle your sides or spin a good story and much more besides. And with a small spanner, I always keep handy. I unbolt his head to store all my candy. So my crops up quite a bit. Okay, now I'm going to change the colour because we're looking at sounds now. My robot must rate. So you could actually argue robot and rate. As my favourite toy, a wonderful whirring mechanical joy. My robot can talk, but he'd much rather sing or go to the park and play on the swings. So you could have robot and rather as well. My robot is silver and very astute. For instance, this week he was learning the flute. My robot's adept at a number of tests, like doing my homework or folding my vests. Oh, I've missed out on my there, sorry about that. My robot tells jokes that will tickle your side. So you could have tell and tiggle. Or spin a good story and much more besides. And with a small spanner, I always keep handy, I unbolt my head to store all my candy. You could also have store because it links with the small spanner. Okay, so can you see the way that you could use repeating words and sounds? Okay, so the last thing that makes a poem, obviously a poem, is its layout. Now we've talked about this, these are verses or stanzas. So have a look at this and work out how it is set up. And if you want to be really clever, you can say what each stanza is about, because that's the kind of thing you can do when you draw your own pictures telling your robot poem story. Okay? So, as you can probably see, this poem has got two stanzas. The first stanza, it's the first 4 lines, and the second stanza, it's the second 4 lines. So we're going to read through it now and have a think about what the poem's about. I'm a robot inventor, old and bent. I'll bang this metal and make a dent. I'd like to rest, but it's nearly done. Here's my robot, what a super one. Then the second stanza, we're his robots, tall and strong. We'll follow instructions all day long. We'd like to help you learn and play. If you'll have us, we're here to stay. So your first stanza, well, that's about the robot inventor. And your second stanza, well, that's about his robots. So inventor is the first stanza. Robots is the second stanza. Okay, so can you see the way that poems use layout to make them look special as well? Okay, so let's go back to the challenge that the robot set us. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a list of all the rhyming pairs of words in the poems. You've probably already done that. Think about the words you want to repeat. Think about whether you want your poems to have stanzas, verses or not, and then draw a picture showing what's happening in your poem with the rhyming words you're going to use for each stanza. So you could do a series of pictures there to show your stanzas. Probably grown-ups, you don't want to do a poem with more than 2 or 3 stanzas, and you'd probably be fine to limit it to 4 or 8 lines. Well, good luck with that. Can't wait to see what you're doing. And remember, at this point, you are only planning your poem. Tomorrow's work is going to be writing the poem itself. Okay?